This conference will now be recorded.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mark Rand. I'm the executive director of an organization called American Nonprofits. We support organizations in California by providing technical assistance and providing bridge loans for late paying contracts, late paying foundation grants, cash flow activities. You can find us at americannonprofits.org. I also run a consulting firm called Community Capital Advisors, and we support CDFIs and nonprofits and foundations as well on creating impact investment strategies, mostly focused on nonprofit finance. So anyway, today, again, I'm your host, Mark Rand, and I'm going to be talking with you about 12-month cash flow projections. And then we're going to run through some business activity operation checklists and just make sure that all the bases are covered at this point while we all go through this horrible COVID-19 epidemic, pandemic. So anyway, let's dive in and learn a little bit about cash flow projections. The idea here is this this tool is supposed to be used by all nonprofits and all for-profits as well to basically understand what your cash position is today and in the future and help you to start planning for some potential difficult decisions. And I'm sure you and your board are already doing that. But these are tough times and we need to be focused on financials. We need to be focused obviously on the safety of our families and staff and et cetera. And part of that is making sure that the financial status of your organization is sound or as sound as it can be. So let's dive in. So there's a couple of different pages on this Excel spreadsheet. You can find the Excel spreadsheet and the template and the checklist and all of that at americannonprofits.org or on Community Capital Advisors US, either way. So basically you just start with the organization's name. I put in here ABC organization, and then you put in today's date. What I would suggest is actually put today's date in, whatever it is. So today's 4/8. But these things change like on a daily basis. So the more you learn, the more you understand what your financial reality is, the more things change. So kind of taking a step back for a second too, what I always suggest is to have at least 3 different scenarios: best case scenario, worst case scenario, most likely. So again, you can have like V1, V2, V3. Today's date, and then we want to look at what cash do we have on hand right now, like not what's coming in the mail, but like what's actually in the bank account right now. So usually there's like 3 different accounts. And there's usually, there could be more, but generally there's a checking, maybe a savings, and some sort of investment account. So just type in how much you have. So 45 grand, 20 grand, 10 grand, whatever it is. And then this will give you the cash balance. This is all on formulas. And then obviously this is all built in Excel. Unfortunately, we all know Excel, some better than others, but whatever. And so anyway, so today we have 75 grand in the bank. Yeah, that's our starting point. That's really helpful. This chart here is just meant just to like help you organize yourself. So what I usually do is suggest having the names of the grants. So we could do state of California. Today's the date of the contract was whatever, August 1st, 2019, and the amount was $100,000. And we know that there's not much money left on the contract, and this is paid, let's just say, quarterly. So this just helps you share information, whether it's with the board, whether it's with the executive director or funders or whatever, but just it helps folks understand and be clear about what money you have, what you don't have, et cetera. So anyway, so this is just kind of like a kind of starting point. Again, how much you have in the bank as of today and what grants you have coming in, et cetera. So step 2, don't be scared. It's a lot of numbers, but again, organization name, cash flow, prepared by Mark Rand, and let's say 4/8/2019, or I'm sorry, 2020. Okay, so here's how this projection tool is built. The first part, this top part here, all the way down here, this is all the cash coming in. on the bottom, it's the cash going out. So in terms of cash coming in, grants, contracts, the fundraiser, blah, 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 whatever else you have coming in, interest income, so that's how that works. And then below is all the cash going out. So that could be salaries, it could be rent, it could be interest, insurance, whatever it is. And then this is set up on a monthly basis. So here we have April, May, June, etc. And you can, with Excel, just do a little copy paste and whoop, drag those formulas across. But we're looking at our monthly cash flow we're looking at our cash flow on a monthly basis. So let's just kind of walk through this. So again, this is the cash flow for April. How much money is coming in the door? Not like, I think, no, like how much money is coming in the door? We have a federal grant, we know, that pays 14,500 bucks a month, or maybe it pays 10,000 bucks a month, and that is going to continue from now until whatever the next 12 months. So you can bring that across, and say, okay, that's secure money. We know that that's coming in. State grant, well, we've got to actually produce something, and we don't know what's going to happen in May. Because services are shut. So let's just put in 0, and we don't know about June or whatever. But let's say July, we're back online, and maybe we can do 5,000. And you can see that I'm trying to project or estimate when some of this funding is coming in the door. And the idea here is, one, you're doing the best you can, right? Like, period. All of us are doing the best we can right now, and it's tough. And so we need to figure out, like, all right, let's at least start with version 1 of this cash flow projection, and then let's start tweaking things a bit. So here we have, this state grant coming in. We think it's going to be in July coming in, and et cetera, across the board. We know we have a county grant. There may be another, they pay, let's say, quarterly. So, we can 35,000 bucks, la, 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 la. So you get the idea here. So again, let's focus in on April. We've got this 10 grand coming in, we've got the state grant coming in, and we're looking at this column here. So boop, 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 all of this information is coming in. We've got special events. Let's knock that down to 0. And then we have fee for service. Well, we did some fee for service in April, but are we going to be able to do any in May or June, TBD? We do have money coming in from the state contract. But with all of these titles, change the titles to make sense to your program or your organization. So you may not have a federal contract or a state contract or a county contract. It may be, I don't know, foundation grant 1, 2, or 3, or whatever it is. So just make this your template. That's the point. Make it work for you. So at the end of the day, we have, you can see we've got $37,000 of earned income and 89 grand of contributed support, for a total of about 126. So all good, right? So that's cash coming in the door. Yay, cash coming in the door. Then we have expenses, and the expenses, typically we know our expenses a little bit more, or have more certainty, because people want to get paid. We have more certainty as to what those fixed costs are. Usually the fixed costs are something like rent. So we know every month we pay 4,200 bucks, right? So that's pretty secure. So we know that's going out the door, or we need to make it go out the door. I'm sorry, this one, yeah, rent is 42. Salaries is the big one, right? So right now, a lot of nonprofits, a lot of for-profits are looking at this salary piece and just saying, okay, well, what's salary look like from now? So let's just assume in March and April, we're doing full salary. So no staff reductions, nothing. So we've got 75, and we're going to keep it for the rest of the year. So let's just bring it across and just show it as 75 for right now. Got payroll, rent we already talked about, supplies, you get the point. There may be credit card payments, there may be loan payments, there may be other payments. So again, use this document as a template and make it, make it make sense for you. I don't know if that actually is proper English, but there you have it. So this now we're on G52, beginning cash balance. So remember the 75 on step one over here. So this just is bringing that information over. So we're just saying, okay, today we've got 75 grand. Well, we know cash coming in the month is 126, so that's groovy. We've got $110,000 of expenses, and basically our, in a way, like net profit for the month is around 16 grand. So that's an easy way to think about it. So at the end of the month, then we should have around 90 grand. So that's good, right? We made some money, and we've got, growing cash balance. So all positive. Here's where things get interesting. So in May, we know our contributed support is dropping from 89 grand to 14 grand. And our earned revenue is basically, nothing. Let's throw in, just for kicks, 15 grand here, just to, make a point. So we've got just about 30 grand of revenue coming in the door. So that a big drop, right? So how does that look with full cost going out? So we've got shy of 30 grand of total revenue, and then we have about 110 of expenses. So that hurts. We're losing this month around 82 grand. So what does that do to our cash balance? So that's now 89. I should also just say real quick, so sorry, 75,000 we already talked about, that's coming from step one. This is obviously a formula two, just adding in revenue coming in, expenses going out, and then adding it to the monthly cash. So we have that 90. That 90 then is being pulled up to this next screen. I'm sorry, the next cell, H52, for 91 grand. So, and that's how this formula and spreadsheet is set up. So it just, ending cash balance, beginning cash balance at the next month. So pretty straightforward. So we have 90 grand at the end of April. Now it's 90 grand at the beginning of May. We know we have 29 grand coming in. We've got 110 grand going out. We just lost 82 grand. So our monthly cash balance is 9 grand. Ruh-roh. So now what do we do? Let's look at the next month. Well, we're saying we've got a little bit more cash coming in, 40 grand from this amazing government grant. And we've got a total of just around 40. So we're doing another loss, right? So we've got 110 grand of expenses on $40,000 of income. So we know that's a big loss too. So here we are basically in the red. Doesn't show it, but you can make that red. Now what? So now comes the difficult decision. So the question is, where's $63,000 or $62,000 coming from? It's not more revenue. So we have to make some difficult decisions. Clearly, the largest expense we have is salaries. Now, everyone's focused on the PPP through the CARES Act and the EIDL and all of that funding coming down the pike, but is it coming down the pike? I don't know. So again, these are scenario plans. So let's just say that, of course, these numbers are somewhat arbitrary, but it could be 7.5 million, it could be 750, it could be whatever the number is. How do we start looking at a decrease in salaries? So you're going to have to figure that out with your board and management, but you need to start figuring out how much can you afford. So let's just say that we do like a major cut of salaries and payroll taxes. So let's just call it 15,000 just for simplicity's sake, and bring this down to 5. Well, okay, so now we've got this kind of net cash balance of shy of $7,000. So we made it through the month. And of course, this is what, June. So maybe things are going to get better by June. Who knows? But we need to, again, start looking at what are we going to do. So here we have July coming in. We're showing all this money coming in. Maybe it's, all of this federal money coming in. Maybe it's not, or whatever. Maybe we're able to do some fee for services and have figured out how to do something online and get paid for it. So we've got 106,000 bucks coming in. Maybe we can, hire some staff back. And at the end of the day, it looks like we're able to make a small loss, but we're at 2,500 bucks. Of course, most nonprofit management courses will teach you that 6 weeks, 8 weeks of cash balances on your operating expenses, are best practices. Well, I mean, yeah, that's best practice, but do all of us have that? No. Um, so now again, we just need to start making some tough decisions. Do we want to bring folks back on a rolling basis? Maybe we're able to increase the number of staffs gradually here. So I've got 15,000 bucks in salaries, and then 25 and 50 and back up to 75 when things come back to somewhat normal. So again, this is a tool. What I would suggest is multiple versions. I want to talk to you about this little funding probability chart here too. So for me, the point is just to get numbers on this chart and start playing with them. That's like the highest priority. You can add bells and whistles to this, and that's what we're going to talk about now. But just start. That's the most important thing. Just start putting numbers in here and just start, figuring out how much money is coming in. What decisions do you need to make? Let's talk about funding probability. So the first thing I would say is it's critical for you to be in touch with your funders at this point, and hopefully you have been, and hopefully they're receiving calls and all of that. Obviously, everyone is overwhelmed, but now is the time to say, hey, can you convert this contract into unrestricted, or you know, can you advance some payments, or now is the time to start negotiating these contracts and see what flexibility your funders have. And FYI, it would be great to show them this cash flow and how their contract could be helpful and would be extremely helpful for the ongoing operations of your organization. So that's that piece. In terms of the funding probability, so there's a couple different things you can do here. I think we started with the idea that like this federal grant is going to be like fully confirmed, like it's sure, we know it's going to happen, so like we can color it green. If it's pending and we think it's going to happen, we talked with the funder and it looks like it's going to happen, maybe you put it in yellow. And then if it's TBD and you're just like, I don't know, I'm just throwing a grant in, put it in as red. So let's just do that. So we don't want to have like some sort of like crazy psychedelic looking chart here, but it's just another tool, just to say this money is coming in for sure, and we know this one is, and whatever, we know this one is too. So that's how that works, and it's again just for conversation for folks. So let's just put this in here and change that to yellow as well, and whatever. So then you can say, okay, what if you really want to get cool and you really want to get slick, you could have different values in here, and your fundraising team knows about this, so talk with them if you have a fundraising team or person. But if it's confirmed, like it's 100%, right? So it's 100%. If it's pending, you could add some sort of like assumption here, like it's 75%. So if a loan, I'm sorry, if a grant is coming in and you think it's going to be $100,000, and you assign it a 75% probability, then you could theoretically put it in as multiply this by this ratio. So let's just do that. Boom, we know that this is going to be that. So it's actually 12,000. So that gives you a little bit more surety, and it's a little bit more conservative to do it that way. So you're not like totally saying, okay, it's going to be 16 grand or whatever it is. So that gives you a little bit more flex. And then you could do with TBD. I mean, you can assign it however you want, whether it's 10% or 20% or 50%, whatever. Um, yeah, I think you get the point here. So again, 12-month cash flow, do multiple variations, best case, worst case, most likely case. Your funders are going to appreciate it. Your board is going to appreciate it. You'll sleep a little bit better, hopefully, and it'll hopefully give you some tools um, to start looking at the organization a little bit differently and help you make some educated guesses. I think we're all focused on this salary issue and keeping our staffs employed. I know that's critical. I know it's a really bad time and tough time for nonprofits and for everyone. So, but this is a tool, use it. I do want to show you a couple of other quick things. Um, and this is just, just an add-on as well. And this is just called like financial spreads. It has the balance sheet here and then the income statement in the back as well. These are all just fancy ratios. But so balance sheet, and the idea here is you just go year on year on year, and you can see how your balance sheet, your assets, and everything else are changing year on year. So it just gives you a little bit more perspective and kind of pulls back the lens a little bit. So anyway, cash flow projections 101. We're here to help at AmericanNonprofits.org and also Community Capital Advisors. You can find me on both places. Mark, MERC at Community Capital Advisors US and MRAND at AmericanNonprofits.org. Contact information is on the front screen. Second tool I just want to show you briefly is, and we'll just touch upon it, is operations checklist. So these are just quick things to think about. Make sure that the bases are covered. We've broken these ideas down into different sections: governance, funders, finance, insurance, HR. So governance, make sure your board is kept up to date with what's going on. Try to figure out where you can tap your board to be supportive. Committees, get that finance committee going. Make sure everyone's engaged. Do you have a continuity plan? We need to figure out, like, these are weird times. So what's the continuity plan for the ED or for the CFO or others? I don't mean to be grim, but we need to start looking at, how this all looks. How are people working remotely? I think we're all starting to see that, especially for viewers at home that have kids. And then there's the whole funder thing. So again, talk with your funders. I know there's this whole concept of restricted and unrestricted, and that's really challenging. Talk to them. Just be open and show them the cash flow and say, look, here's how we're looking at it. Help us out here. See if they're open to ideas and suggestions, etc. Also, talk to them about the reporting deadlines. Is that really the highest and best use of everyone's time right now? Can they be pushed 3 months? Maybe not. Yes, no. Finance and accounting. So let's just make sure like the accounting systems are online. Who's got the paychecks? How is the bank treating you? What are the banking account numbers and who is your banker? Write all of that down. We want to make sure that leadership at your organization has this information. Who is the auditor? Write all of this information down, have it consolidated, and share it with the board and senior management. Again, with the projections, let's look at those revenue shocks. What does it mean when we look at the 12-month cash flow if revenue increases or just all of a sudden is decimated? What does it look like, vis-a-vis the expenses, salaries, most, important. So let's look at that. Put in your assumptions. You can always put your assumptions in. That's always a good thing too, to say, okay, here on this cash flow projections, you can just have a little sidebar here. say, grants are fully funded. Um, Write it all down, have it consolidated, because you never know who's going to get this. You never know where it's going to go. Make sure that you're putting the assumptions in, and share that. HR and staffing, just going back to this response checklist, HR and staffing. So we've got staff contracts, we have HR policies. How are folks working from home? What happens when staff is laid off? Who's tracking the PPP loan requests, et cetera. Some other quick resources for you. Technology, TechSoup, fabulous. Go on their website. They're supporting the nonprofits. They always do support the nonprofits around the world. I think they actually have clients all in every country around the world. I don't know how that's possible. That's amazing though. Google, Microsoft. But anyway, there's a lot going on out there. It's all coming very quickly. But maybe you can ask someone to kind of look into different software solutions that are being offered, and possibly for free as well. I also want to point out a couple of other resources. We're thinking about finance, and I always think about insurance as well. So I work with NIAC, the Nonprofit Insurance Alliance of California, also ANI, which is ANI, which also provides insurance to nonprofits around the country. NIAC has amazing resources on their website. Just to put out there, like I work with NIAC, but just a plug for NIAC. They have great resources. They have attorneys on staff that can help you with HR issues. There's Blue Avocado as well, which is it's supported by NIAC. And Annie. So look at all of this. These are great resources. Community Vision is based in California. It used to be called Northern California Community Loan Fund. They're a CDFI lender. Nonprofit Finance Fund, also a CDFI lender. There's nonprofit lenders out there that can help you. But there are resources out here. It's just trying to get through the morass of all of this onslaught of data and information coming at us really quickly. We're here to help. We're here to be supportive. I hope this was helpful. Look at the website, pull down the template, easy peasy. Use it for yourself. Make sure you do multiple scenarios, share those with your executive team and board, and start planning. I appreciate all of you, all of the nonprofit sector. I know it's tough times, and it certainly is a little scary. So I send you my best. I'm thinking of you, and we will get through this. Bye.